Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 23. A debt that will be repaid. Zhenqi is right, this is definitely a big case, Chu Yangxi said. They had just set foot inside the exorcism department, but the rest of them were already gathered around discussing matters. When the two of them returned, a hush fell over the rest. Li Jinglong closed the main gate to the exorcism department, and everyone sat down in the courtyard. Chu Yangxi smiled and said, "Heng Jun charmed a Yaoguai." The rest of them were at a loss for words. No, it doesn't count," Heng Jun said, before giving them a general idea of his and Chu Yangxi's deductions. "How many Yao were in the Imperial Academy?" Li Jinglong asked. "It's unclear," Chu Yangxi said. "We still need to investigate further, but by a rough estimate, no less than 100. Li Jinglong breathed in deeply, and he replied, "A stunningly big case." A Tai said, "I checked all the brothels in Pingkong Li, and there are no more Yaoguai there. Those 3 Fox Yao came a year ago." Heng Jun thought in his heart, "Thank the heavens and the earth," just as Li Jinglong said, "Then, the past course of events is very clear. What we need to do next is..." Heng Jun hurried to interrupt, "Wait a moment, explain it in more detail. To you, it's very clear, but to me, it's not that obvious." Whenever this group of people was deducing things, they would always use a kind of "this is very obvious" energy. Li Jinglong could only go out of his way as he explained. Ever since 1 year ago, a large number of Fox Yao began to take up residence in Chang'an in waves. First were the 3 who could only situate themselves in Yixi-lan, but why did they pick Yixi-lan? Because that's the place that scholars like to go to the most. The first scholar who came to Pingkong Li, after having his fun, was sucked dry by a Fox Yao. A Tai took over and continued. So then, there was a Fox Yao who shifted forms to replace him. Heng Jun understood. Li Jinglong continued, "In Yixi-lan, people come and go. These 3 Fox Yao specially picked examinees as targets, and every time they killed one, they had their family's own little brothers come and take their place. And thus, in the Imperial Academy, the number of Fox Yao disguised as scholars increased over time. The dead scholars, after being turned into dried corpses, were then disposed of." Heng Jun exclaimed, "So, the dried corpse under the bed that day?" "Correct." Li Jinglong began to pace. He thought for a moment, before continuing, perhaps it was a newly dead person, or perhaps Jin Yun just forgot about it, but either way, that corpse was not disposed of in time, and instead was unearthed by us in our stumbling about. That is also the reason why, despite the risk of getting injured, they had to burn that dry corpse to ashes. Chu Yangxi said, "These Fox Yao, after turning into examinees and attending the examination on the 5th day of next month, will then in large batches take up bureaucratic roles, and then the entirety of Chang'an will..." When they got to this point, everyone shuddered a little from something other than the cold. "Will become the territory of the Yao tribe," Li Jinglong answered. "But there's another point, how can the Fox Yao be sure that they will pass the exams?" Heng Jun suddenly felt that this was much too preposterous, a group of Fox Yao running over to take the test and become officials. Li Jinglong glanced at the rest of them and said, "So, there must be a spy inside the court itself, and if they aren't the Chang'an Yao King, then they are the subordinate of that Yao King. It's in charge of leaking the questions out, so that the Fox Yao can prepare the right materials to study." "Could it be a literary official?" Chu Yangxi asked. "Not necessarily," A Tai responded slowly. "The Fox Yao don't have many abilities. I imagine their only qualifications for joining are being able to turn into humans and being able to reasonably imitate someone," Li Jinglong said. "These few days, I've looked over some of the records that Duke De left about Fox Yao. The one at the top probably provides for these Fox Yao, while Fei Ao must have been the dog that protects them." Origin said thoughtfully, "The most important thing now is to figure out the identity of the one in the court. Someone who can get their hands on the test questions, who also has the ear of the emperor." Li Jinglong said slowly, This isn't urgent, it will always reveal itself at some point, especially after we get rid of all of its subordinates. When this case is closed, no matter how much we want to get rid of it, it will definitely want to get rid of us more. Hung Jun, if my predictions are accurate, the last of your throwing knives should be in the hands of the mastermind. Let's move out. In these coming few days, everyone's responsibilities are going to be unusually heavy. Mo Rijin, A Tai, and Chu Yangxi, you guys should rest first. Tonight, you three move together, get into the Imperial Academy, and mark out all of the Fox Yao. Hung Jun, help me make some medicine. Li Jinglong strode a few steps away, but he suddenly turned around and came back, holding out his right palm. Everyone smacked their own palms against his, before each of them went to make their preparations. That night, the moon was dark and the wind was high as Chu Yangxi, A Tai, and Mo Rijin, without a sound, snuck into the Imperial Academy. I keep thinking that we need a Yao-revealing mirror, Chu Yangxi said. Distinguishing which ones are Yaogwai is such a tiring task. Make one. A Tai also felt it, and he peeked into the bedroom, saying quietly, do you think this one looks like one? Mo Rijin also scooted over, and watching the scholar lying on the bed, he said, it'd be better if we let them go rather than kill them wrongly. 10 years of bitter study under the frost and the cold, if we get it wrong then it's all over. This one is one, Chu Yangxi replied. I saw him in the hall earlier, go for it. A Tai waved his fan gently, and a trickle of medicinal powder landed on the corner of that Fox Yao's robe, leaving a tiny trace. In front of another room's window, Mo Rijin waved his hand, indicating that they should come over. There were 6 people sleeping inside, and when Mo Rijin opened his palm, the 7-nailed arrows kept shaking and letting out faint goo gus. They had detected Yao energy. They all are. Chu Yangxi only needed one glance to figure it out. See, one of the Fox Yao there, it's sleeping so deeply that its tail's even peeking out. They wouldn't do that with any commoners in the room, or it'd be really easy to expose themselves. A Tai then made a mark. It was deep autumn, and Chang'an was already under the thrall of a slight chill. People often used a charcoal basin to boil tea and warm themselves, and accidentally dirtying the corners of their robes because of it was a common thing, so the Fox Yao would probably not see through their trap. In the night, Hung Jun was mixing medicine in the courtyard while Li Jinglong sat next to him, flipping through old case records. Thanks for you guys' hard work, Li Jinglong said. This time, if the exorcism department survives unharmed, then I'll take everyone to go out properly and have some fun. Unharmed. Hung Jun heard a hidden meaning in those words. Li Jinglong had accidentally committed a slip of the tongue, and he could only gloss it over quickly, so he said, after the case is closed. Hung Jun asked, after we catch the Fox Yao, how should we take care of them? Li Jinglong answered, burn them all to death. Hung Jun. Li Jinglong observed Hung Jun's expression and asked, are you thinking of asking for mercy on their behalf? Hung Jun thought of the examinees who had been killed by the Fox Yao. Who would ensure that they got the justice they deserved? But he kept feeling that the little Fox Yao were pretty pitiful as well, and asked, can't we let some of them go? Who will spare someone who has been murdered? Li Jinglong said. You're an exorcist. In the afternoon, when Li Jinglong was listening to Chu Yangxi's debriefing, he felt that it was a little dangerous. He was afraid that if Hung Jun became friends with that little fox, that was a misstep that could never be reversed. Do you think that all Yao are bad? Then what about Zhao Zilong? Hung Jun asked him in response. Li Jinglong answered, at least these foxes are. Hung Jun's forehead also wrinkled up, but he didn't try to argue back against Li Jinglong. If the little fox hadn't harmed anyone, then could it have been left a path to live? But it had involved itself in the process of killing these scholars. Put a little more in. Li Jinglong felt that the atmosphere was a little awkward, and he didn't talk about that matter anymore. He reminded Hung Jun, I want medicine so potent that one drop will make them fall asleep and reveal their true forms. In the afternoon, Li Jinglong had scoured all of the pharmacies in Chang'an, so Hung Jun could only add in quite a bit more, and finally he ground it all to powder before carefully packing it up. Do not, under any circumstances, breathe this in, Hung Jun said, before thinking about it. Zhenqi, I trust that you won't be that unlucky. Don't jinx me, all right. Li Jinglong was actually afraid of Hung Jun now, and he carefully and meticulously split the powder up and stored it away into several little bags. It was 11 at night, and the 10th month had just passed. This eventful autumn was also coming to an end. There were still 5 days until the imperial examination, and that night, after everyone finished their tasks, Chu Yangxi said, in total, there are 266 foxes. Less than I imagined, Li Jinglong said, but still he felt a little unsettled, so he set up watches. Every night, someone would go watch over the Fox Yao to prevent any sudden surprises. But on the second day, there came an official decree from the court. This year the fall examination was being pushed forward 3 days, and it would begin on the second day of the 11th month at the Capital Academy, so the flyer that Chu Yangxi brought back proclaimed. Everyone thought deeply for a moment. The Yao King must know now that Fei Ao has died, Li Jinglong said. I'm afraid that because we disrupted his plans, that's why the exams are starting earlier. Could our plans have been exposed? Mo Rijin frowned. Li Jinglong waved his hand and said, that's to say, his subordinates aren't as many as we thought they were. Don't get flustered by the change, the date has been changed to tomorrow, but we'll go along with our original plan. Hung Jun said, then should I still go? Truthfully, Hung Jun felt a little bit of hesitation in going. He didn't want to go face a little Fox Yao who would inevitably die under their hands. You go, Li Jinglong said. At this time, the intelligence you obtain is going to be vitally important. The Carpiao had just stuck its head out to ask some clarifying questions, but everyone was afraid it would ruin their plans, so they immediately pressed it down. Hung Jun thought about it for a bit before nodding and agreeing to go to the scheduled meetup. 3K afternoon, he arrived at the bottom of the Lishui Bridge. In reality, Li Jinglong had already prepared that as soon as the examination began, they would capture all of the Fox Yao at once, but the day that Chu Yangxi saw that small Fox Yao, his plans changed instantly to accommodate for an opportunity to sound out their opponent. If the Fox Yao had felt any danger, then they would definitely send someone to sound out Hung Jun. Whether they had discovered the danger or not, when that little Fox Yao faced down Hung Jun, there would be 2 different sets of words. Li Jinglong had long since calculated that this mastermind behind the scenes was in a difficult position. If 200 scholars disappeared in a single night, how would that be explained? This was really giving the exorcism department a prime opportunity. By the Lishui Bridge, the maple leaves danced in the wind, and the pitiful leaves landed in the river and floated downstream. Du Hanqing was sprawled against the railing watching the scenery, looking completely carefree. Du Hanqing. Hung Jun smiled. Hung Jun. Du Hanqing immediately began to smile. Hung Jun always felt that there was something a little odd, because this youth always seemed to look forward to seeing him, but he walked onto the bridge and greeted him before they walked side by side off the bridge towards the eastern market. Li Jinglong, clutching the Carpiao in his hand, and Mo Rijin were hidden in an alley as they peeked out. The Carpiao had just realized the cause and effect, and it asked, have they met up already? SHH, Li Jinglong indicated that it should shut up. The Carpiao added, why couldn't old Chu and Mo Rijin handle it? Li Zhenqi, you had to specially make this trip. Li Jinglong gagged that Carpiao's mouth and clasped him under his left arm, looking around at the surroundings before walking out, following behind Hung Jun and Du Hanqing. The autumn sun was bright, and the 2 youths were shoulder to shoulder as they walked through the Chang'an market. Hung Jun was lithe and graceful like a jade tree, and Du Hanqing was clean and fair of face, bathed in the gentle sunlight. It was really a very picturesque scene. I'll take you to the bookshop, Hung Jun said to Du Hanqing. Hung Jun, why is that person holding a fish? Hung Jun turned his head, and as soon as he saw that motion, Li Jinglong immediately turned around, facing the fish seller's stall, still clutching the carpiao as he pretended to bargain with the boss. Mo Rijin immediately pretended to be just looking around. Usually, when Hung Jun piggybacked the carpiao he didn't feel it was very funny, but this time seeing Li Jinglong holding the fish, he couldn't help but laugh loudly. Ha 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 ha, who's the one holding that fish, so dumb. It traveled through the entire market. Immediately people turned around and began to mock him as a group. Ha ha ha, isn't this Li Jinglong? Li Jinglong! Only then did Hung Jun realize that was his own family's fish, and immediately he grew awkward. He hurriedly pulled Du Hanking away, bringing him into the bookstore. Look, there's a lot of books here, Hung Jun said. Wow, though Du Hanking had never come here, and here he almost misspoke, and he hurried to cover it up, rarely come here. Li Jinglong hurried to stuff the carpiao to Mo Rijin, commanding it to not open its mouth and speak, before he moved in a flash into the bookstore. Standing behind the shelves, he approached Hung Jun and Du Hanking to eavesdrop on their conversation. But at this time, the two of them were discussing poetry, which frustrated Li Jinglong. Why are you discussing Li Bai with a Yaogwai? Finally, Du Hanking accepted Hung Jun's recommendation, and the two of them, still shoulder to shoulder, walked out. Hung Jun suggested that they should go eat, and brought him to carp leaping over the dragon gate. Li Jinglong. Zenchi, I forgot to bring money. Mo Rijin hugged the carpiao and hurried to add, I'll go back and get some from home, just wait for me. It's no trouble, in a bit you go order some dishes first. No need, I have money, Li Jinglong said. You should go back first, hurry and take this fish away. The waiter came over to list out the dishes, and Hung Jun racked his brain for a long time before he remembered the ones that the carpiao had ordered that day. 1 plate of kungsuan stir-fry, black chicken stew. Hung Jun somehow managed to basically remember all the dishes, and Du Hanking was extremely shocked as he said, this place is too expensive. Hung Jun indicated that there was no problem, and he watched Du Hanking with a smile. Du Hanking's two eyes turned a little red, and he said, this is the first time in my entire life that someone has brought me here. Behind the neighboring dividing screen, the waiter asked the sitting Li Jinglong. What would this master like to order? A cup of water. Li Jinglong had always been good at adjusting to new situations. Alrighty, the waiter said. Captain Li Jinglong here, a cup of water. The entire 2 floors of carp leaping over the dragon gate burst out in loud laughter. Li Jinglong took a deep breath, scooting over a little bit more to listen to the two of them talking next door. What are they laughing about? Du Hanking asked. Hung Jun shrugged. He was completely lost as to why they were once again mocking Li Jinglong, but remembering Li Jinglong, who was right next to them was listening in, finally remembered also that today's main duty was to squeeze some information out of the Fox Yao. The people from your hometown didn't take you to wander around Chang'an. Hung Jun said. Du Hanking gently breathed in, before he smiled, in their eyes, I'm just a servant who's here to carry tea and pour water for them. On the other side of the divider, Li Jinglong sat there without a word, listening to the two of them talk. Hung Jun said comfortingly, after you get an official position, then it should be better. Du Hanking responded, how could that be? I'll just continue to carry tea and pour water for them for the rest of my life. Hung Jun, how could that be? When you pass, you'll be an official. Du Hanking smiled slightly as he asked, how many people are in your family? They must be rich, hey. Hung Jun thought about it for a moment before saying, it's just me and my dad, and there's another, I guess he doesn't count as a blood-related uncle, I also don't know what to call him, to tell the truth, he also didn't know what to call Qing Xiang. Ah? They're both men? Du Hanking asked, surprised. Then you were adopted. I guess it counts as that, Hung Jun answered. The two of them raised me, and I've never had a mother since I was small." Upon hearing this, the corner of Li Jinglong's mouth wavered, and his thoughts wandered for a moment. He was a little surprised, because Hung Jun very rarely talked about his own family with them. Du Hanqing smiled, "Just as I thought, you look a little different from the others." Hung Jun. Du Hanqing let out a sigh and said, "Actually, I don't know what you see in me." Hung Jun thought, "See in you? What does that mean? I don't like you like that, ah." Li Jinglong's expression grew severe. "With a friend like you, I'm pretty happy," Du Hanqing said. "I don't have any friends in Chang'an. If you have time, you can come by the Imperial Academy to find me." Hung Jun then nodded. At this time, Li Jinglong could basically confirm that the Fox Yao had not yet sensed any danger, so he let his guard down a little, taking a drink of the water in front of him as he listened to the two of them speak. The waiter came by with their order. Du Hanqing was very interested in Hung Jun's family matters, so he kept asking questions, which Hung Jun easily answered. In his hand was a small paper pouch, and inside the pouch was the medicine that he had just made, but after hesitating for a while, he couldn't find an opportunity to slip the pouch into the food. Hung Jun not only didn't manage to get any information out of Du Hanqing, but he himself was being squeezed for more and more information, and finally Li Jinglong began to cough non-stop next door, afraid that Hung Jun was going to accidentally spill everything about the exorcism department as well. Finally, Du Hanqing exuberantly said, "Hung Jun, I really like you." Hung Jun grew awkward, and a wave of guilt washed over his heart as he forcefully diverted the topic away. Du Hanqing seemed to predict that Hung Jun would have such a reaction, and he let out a light sigh. At night, when the drums began, Hung Jun saw Du Hanqing to the entrance of the Imperial Academy, and he said, "I'm going now, you should properly take care of yourself." Du Hanqing turned around and smiled at Hung Jun, before handing him a little white ring made from a small rock. On the ring was wrapped a straw rope, and he said, "The jade Buddha that you gave me, I really like it. I'll give this ring to you. Since I have no jade, I used a rock to substitute, I hope you don't mind." Hung Jun took that ring and nodded. He kept feeling a sense of unease, but Du Hanqing continued, "After I'm done testing, let's go have some fun outside of the city." "All right." Hung Jun indicated that he should go, so Du Hanqing turned around and went into the Imperial Academy. When the drumbeats stopped, Hung Jun stood there holding that ring with a sense of disappointment in his heart, before he began walking back on his own down the long street. It was deep autumn, and night came early, the entire city was already pitch black. "Thanks for your hard work," Li Jinglong's voice suddenly said by the roadside. Hung Jun couldn't help but be startled so much that he jumped. His mood wasn't very good as he responded, "It was nothing." Li Jinglong unfolded himself and stood up. Today, he was wearing a set of dark blue martial robes made from the material that Yang Guifei had gifted them that day. The clothes sat neatly on him, and they showed off his lithe grace. Hung Jun looked at him for half a moment, and Li Jinglong lowered his head to look at himself, before asking, "Does it look good?" Hung Jun nodded, and Li Jinglong added, "You also have a set. Tomorrow when we set out on our first official duty, we need to be prepared to fight, so everyone should wear it." Hung Jun nodded as he went with Li Jinglong back towards the exorcism department. Li Jinglong said, "You're angry?" Hung Jun nodded again. Li Jinglong turned around and said, "Because I didn't agree to let you save that fox." Hung Jun thought about it for a moment before he bolstered his courage and answered, "Li Zhenqi, in your eyes, are all Yao this evil without hope?" Li Jinglong furrowed his brow and answered, "Hung Jun, you can't treat Yao like you do people. Yao feel the joy and grief that humans do, and they can pretend to be like people, but they're only using you. Fox Yao always want to find a person they can stick to, didn't you hear what Jin Yun said that day? Out of the words from their mouths, how much is real, and how much is fake? But don't keep saying but," Li Jinglong said. "He's just using you. Can't you be less gullible? Just as Li Jinglong was being passionate, his stomach suddenly let out a goo sound, and it began to rumble. Hung Jun. He must have been very hungry, so hungry that his temper got the best of him, Hung Jun thought. Li Jinglong continued, you trust other people too easily. He's just charming you, and the words he spoke today were only to make you happy. He pretended to be pitiful, but it could be that he's just making it all up to prevent us from killing his relatives tomorrow. You think that if you let him go, he won't come back to get his revenge. Then, Li Jinglong's stomach let out another goo. Finally, Hung Jun couldn't hold it in anymore, and he began to laugh loudly. Li Jinglong said angrily, don't laugh. Hung Jun waved his hand, indicating that that was the end of that conversation, and Li Jinglong could only helplessly go with him back to the exorcism department. Everyone was currently waiting for Li Jinglong to return so that they could start eating, and Hung Jun tossed the white ring onto the table, showing that he finished the mission. He said, I've eaten, and then went to his own room to sleep. A skein of grass wrapped around a ring, A Tai took a look at it and said, that little fox wanted to use this to express the depths of his emotions. Hey! Li Jinglong ran across the courtyard, only to see Hung Jun close the door. He could only turn around and come back to eat, and through the entire meal, he was quiet and unhappy. Everyone knew that there shouldn't be any big problems for tomorrow, so they all knew to keep quiet and not speak unduly. End chapter. Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 24. Meeting the Emperor at Mt. Li. That night, Hung Jun had a nightmare. In the dream, Du Hanking's entire body was on fire as it burned merrily. His skin charred and split as fresh blood seeped out, revealing the bloody flesh hidden under that now blurred fox fur. That anguished fox was trying to peel itself out of its human skin, dragging out fresh blood and sizzling fat along as it let out tortured howls. Ah! Hung Jun sat up suddenly in bed. Hung Jun. Origin's voice came from the outside before he hurried to enter, placing one hand on the exhausted Hung Jun's forehead. Hung Jun breathed lightly. This was already the second time he had a bad dream, and he struggled to sit up, panting incessantly, before he calmed himself a little and watched Origin quietly. In the nights that the white deer has left behind, Origin said, voice quiet, the night horrors of the grasslands howl and run wild. He poured a cup of water for Hung Jun, before muttering a spell over the cup. When Hung Jun took it and gulped it down, his heart seemed to calm a little. What does that mean? Hung Jun asked. The grey wolf watches over the bright day, while the white deer watches over the long night, Origin said. In my homeland there's a legend, when the white deer vanishes into the darkness, children who have left their homes will have nightmares. Are you homesick? A little, Hung Jun nodded his head. Origin patted Hung Jun's shoulder and smiled slightly. When people grow up, it's inevitable that they leave their home behind. That's true, Hung Jun said quietly. He nodded at Origin in gratitude. After drinking that cup of water, his mood had greatly improved, and when he laid down again, this time he quickly fell asleep. The next day, in the early morning, Hung Jun was the one who woke up the earliest. As he squatted by the side of the well and brushed his teeth, the carp Yao, having learned of the events of the last night, was busy advising him, why are you so concerned about that Yao Guai? He's not your relative or even from the same hometown as you, and you already have your hands full taking care of yourself. Hung Jun wiped his mouth dry, searching his thoughts for a moment, before responding, technically, I am also a Yao, am I not? There will inevitably be a day when Zhenqi knows. Your situation is different from the foxes, the carp Yao said. Zhenqi doesn't seem to mind me. If there's anyone to blame, it's the fox Yao who didn't pledge allegiance to your father back in the day, so they're just reaping what they sowed. Plus, you usually eat anything and everything, and when you eat meat I don't see you saying all lives are equal. That's not the same, Hung Jun said, not eating meat would be out of the compassion I hold in my heart, eating meat is to help them escape the bitterness and troubles of life, Qingxiang said so. Morning, Zhenqi. From behind them came the sound of Chu Yongxi greeting Li Jinglong and Hung Jun, and the Carpiao immediately stopped talking. At the same time, Mo Rijin coincidentally was coming back from outside, and Li Jinglong asked him, "It's done?" Mo Rijin nodded his head. Hung Jun asked, "This early in the morning, what had you done?" Mo Rijin smiled mysteriously and made a shh motion, indicating that he would know in just a bit. Li Jinglong said, "This time I only heard the sentence about the compassion I hold in my heart. Eat breakfast first, and go change clothes after you're done eating." This huge thing had shrunk to such an insignificant size after a good sleep. The misgivings in Hung Jun's heart from last night had disappeared, and when he faced Li Jinglong now, he felt a little awkward for his previous actions, but Li Jinglong only gave him a look before commanding them to change into their uniforms. The uniforms of the exorcism department were made with the fabric that the Emperor and Yang Guifei had gifted them. It was a high-quality deep blue fabric, and the loose-sleeved outer martial robes paired with the snow-white inner robes showed off the breadth of their shoulders and the narrowness of their waists. It was different from the long robes of the literary officials. The bottom hem only covered 90% of the length of the leg, showing off their pitch-black military boots. These robes were better suited for fighting in, and their martial prowess shone through in their strides. They stood in front of the mirror, admiring themselves in turn, and evidently clothes made the man, as all of them appeared very tall and handsome. Even Chu Yongxi, who was used to wearing the robes of a scholar, now looked like someone who was brave and daring when he put on this official uniform. And yet, of the five of them, the one who looked the best was still Hung Jun. After Hung Jun had arrived in Chang'an, he had gotten used to wearing rough robes with drawstring sleeves, his upper body clad in pale white and his lower half in a faded azure, like a youth from a farming family. Despite this, he was already very attractive with his usual outfits because he had been gifted with good looks, and he had still managed to give off the air of a young lord. But now that he wore a set of expensive robes, no person could look at him directly, and he had the air of a scion of the Wangzi clan. The neck is kinda tight. As soon as Hung Jun opened his mouth, that illusion was destroyed. Li Jinglong could only go up and help him tug it a little wider, saying, "Of course I forgot about the collar." Before, Li Jinglong had specially asked the tailor to come around once and to work overtime to make these outfits. Hung Jun hadn't been there then, but his robes still fit him very well, and Hung Jun felt that this was a little strange. He pointed out, "No one took my measurements." Li Jinglong grew a little awkward at that, and he coughed lightly, before saying to the rest of them, "See, I told you they would fit." Zhenqi's vision is indeed very good. Mo Rijin lifted his thumb. Hung Jun looked at Li Jinglong suspiciously and asked, "How did you know my measurements?" "All right, stop asking." Li Jinglong handed over an extremely shrunken, bathrobe-like piece of clothing to Hung Jun, before pointing towards the outside, saying, "You're pretty thin, so with the extra material, I made another robe." "Zhao Zilong!" Hung Jun held that little bathrobe as he shouted wildly. "What? What?" Zhao Zilong immediately rushed on over. It had lived for so many years, and yet this was the first time it had worn clothes. Seeing that Li Jinglong actually hadn't forgotten about itself, it began to cheer, before taking over the bathrobe. It laid down on the ground as it shoved its hairy legs in. After putting on the bathrobe, it tied the sash at its waist, and the back train just managed to cover its tail. Li Jinglong handed it a small shoulder bag, helping it put it on. The bag was for holding Lihun pollen. Everyone couldn't resist laughing loudly, and the Carpiao said, "Let me see," before hopping up and down in front of the full-length mirror. Li Jinglong said, "Today let's all move out together. This is a life and death day, so make sure that you don't use the Lihun pollen unnecessarily." Everyone voiced their agreement and, carrying their weapons, they prepared to head out. Hung Jun's heart began to pound as he remembered Li Jinglong's words about if the exorcism department survives unharmed, and he had a revelation. When he looked at Li Jinglong, The glance Li Jinglong shot him in return seemed to have a hidden smile, as if he was comforting him. Don't worry, everything will be all right. In the early morning, Mt. Li was covered in billowing clouds that dampened the clothes of anyone climbing the mountain. A horse cart stopped by the roadside, and the Shenwu troops frantically said, "General, please get in the carriage." Feng Chongqing grasped his walking stick, and with great effort he hobbled step by step up Mt. Li towards the vacation palace of the emperor. At the same time, he waved high hand and said, "It's not a problem. Do you all look down on this general?" The guards could only stop asking and stay quiet as Feng Chongqing limped along the paved path. His parents had died when he was very young, and when his maternal grandfather was exiled to Angzi after being framed by Li Linfu, he had spent his life drifting about in the service of the army. With his disabled body, he had managed to display his stunning talent under Gao Xianzi's command, and after conquering Lesser Bolar and the country of Greater Bolar. In 13 years, he had moved upwards in leaps and bounds to become a fierce general who could stand shoulder to shoulder with seasoned generals such as Geshu Han. Feng Chongqing had multiple battles and victories under his belt, and he had employed countless stratagems in his campaigns in the western regions. Everyone mocked Li Jinglong, but no one dared to mock this weak and small Feng Chongqing. As the commander of a troop of 10,000 men, his voice naturally carried not anger, but the power of prestige in the words he spoke. Although Feng Chongqing was currently on leave in the capital, the day he returned victorious to the court, he had turned in an almost 10,000-word-long memorial to the throne to Li Longji, requesting reform of the way the frontier lands were governed, so that they could be ruled over peacefully and the soldiers stationed far away could return home. Because of this, he had a good reputation amongst the military officials and the troops themselves. An eunuch, beset with an air of confusion, hurried into a walking palace. At this time, Li Longji was hugging Yang Yehuan and sleeping peacefully, and the eunuch didn't dare to disturb their rest. However, he was also afraid that Feng Chongqing would rush into the scene waving his cane, and the guards outside wouldn't dare to stop him. The eunuch opened his mouth but didn't dare to let out any sound. He was anxious beyond belief. "If you have anything, then say it. Don't swallow it and not spit it out." From inside the tent came Li Longji's voice. He had woken. "What shishan is it?" Yang Yehuan lazily asked. "General Feng Chongqing is waiting outside. He says there's an extremely important matter that he wanted to report post-haste to His Majesty." When he heard these words, Li Longji instantly sat up straight, and he mumbled, "Something happened again. It shouldn't be. A messenger hasn't been sent out to Chongqing yet, right? Unless the Ministry of War sent him here. Is it a military situation?" Li Longji thought about it, before he asked, "Where's Qiuchen? Why didn't he go to Qiuchen first?" The eunuch said, "The fate of the country is intimately intertwined with this matter. What is he up to?" Li Longji waved his hand impatiently and said, "Tell him that Zhen knows." "When did he get here?" "Last night, at the second gen, he arrived at the foot of the mountain, and one step at a time, he walked up," the eunuch said. Yang Yehuan said, "General Feng's legs aren't in the best shape, how did he manage to make it up here?" "Your Majesty." Li Longji had no other choice, so he pulled on his dragon robe, and, with his hair loose and uncombed, he walked out of the bedroom. In the side hall, Feng Chongqing leaned on his cane, breathing heavily, watching Li Longji, who wore a dignified expression on his face. "Don't rush," Li Longji calmed him. "You are granted a seat. Someone get General Feng a cup of water and speak slowly." Feng Chongqing couldn't stop trembling even as he lifted his head to look at Li Longji. Li Longji was getting old, and though he usually paid attention to his looks, he was over 60, and he could not avoid showing his age. Feng Chongqing had yet to reach the age where he could tell a person's truths and lies apart by ear, but he looked like he was somewhat older than Li Longji. When this subject was climbing Mt. Li, Feng Chongqing took the handkerchief that the eunuch offered him, wiped his sweat, and panted, I don't know why, but I thought of your Majesty's past heroic silhouette. The heroic silhouette from which year? Li Longji began to smile. Feng Chongqing looked at Li Longji as he said, the first year of the Tang Long era, the year when the troops gathered in front of the Linjian pavilion. Li Longji had been woken up this early in the morning, but upon hearing Feng Chongqing actually bringing up the past with him, he began to laugh. However, his long-honed instinct during his time as a ruler told him that things that began with such a reminiscing of the past would definitely not be simple. If you didn't bring it up, Zhen would almost have forgotten it. Li Longji smiled, and he took the ginger soup that the eunuch handed over, and after taking a sip, said, "Wu, give a bowl to Chongqing as well." That year Li Xianfu and Ge Fushun led the Yulin army and started a coup to punish Empress Wei, who wanted to follow in the footsteps of Wu Zhao and ascend as the Empress Regent. Li Longji and Princess Taiping gathered their forces at Linjian Pavilion and swore on their lives to defend the reign of the Li clan, before charging into the palace, killing Princess Onal, Wu Yangziu, Shang Guanwaner and everyone else involved in the plot, taking back the Li clan's territory and right to rule. The past was a world away, but listening to Feng Chongqing bringing up those days, Li Longji couldn't help but remember the way blood boiled over with passion in his chest all those years ago. The Kaiwan Yuan year, as well, Feng Chongqing added. If he hadn't remembered wrong, that was the year Li Longji had once again started a coup, one where he caused Princess Taiping's death. From then on, the Great Tang had blossomed into the prosperous splendor it had today. Chongqing, you should know, the world is at peace today, Li Longji said. As long as the common people are happy, then not needing to use this knife of Zhen's is a good thing. Li Longji had heard a hint of something in Feng Changqing's words, and he was also thinking back to that something. No matter what happened, he always hoped that it would not cause large upheavals within the imperial court. Your Majesty is all-knowing, Feng Chongqing immediately answered. Chongqing thought of Your Majesty, and couldn't help but think of himself. Li Jinglong's brows began to furrow slightly. Feng Chongqing asked, Chongqing doesn't know, but since the year he entered General Gao Xianzi's military tent, in these years, have there been any troop situations that have been hidden from the imperial court? None, Li Longji answered. Exposing other people's lies, however, there were many of those. In these years, has Chongqing ever lied to Your Majesty? Feng Chongqing asked again. Under this wide sky, only you have spoken the truth regardless of the situation you found yourself in. Li Longji's words carried a hint of unquestionable majesty. Though it may have been unpleasant to hear, you never lied to me. What exactly is happening in Chang'an? When Li Longji was young, he also had a ruthless character, and though he had indulged in tenderness these years, when it came to such matters of principle, his brain was still clear and sharp. Feng Chongqing lifted a hand, which trembled a little as he pointed to his neck, and he answered, Today, if Chongqing speaks even half a sentence of lies, then he asks that Your Majesty removes this head from the shoulders, and Chongqing will not utter a single word of complaint. Li Longji's brows furrowed, he didn't know what medicine Feng Chongqing was selling in his hulu. Finally, he said, Speak. When the sun had risen to the height of 3 bamboo poles, the examination building to the north of the city resounded with the dang 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 of a bell sounding again and again as nearly 2,500 students underwent the customary body search, before they filed single file like a school of fish into the building. As far as the eye could see, the building was filled with single-occupancy private rooms, and the rooms were connected by rows of hallways. Every door was marked with one of the heavenly stems and earthly branches. The examinees were searched outside and subsequently given plagues. According to each plaque, they waited outside the doorways to the private rooms they had been assigned, and the test proctors passed by, verifying their identities and their plagues before the examinees hung the plagues outside the door and entered. After they shut the door, the test proctor stuck a paper seal onto it. 10 rows of private rooms, with every row having 100 rooms. After they were sealed inside, the huge examination center fell into an echoing silence. Every room of the wing was completely sealed except for a sliver of a window that let in the light, so that the servants could deliver food and water, and the scholars could go leave to relieve themselves. Otherwise, the examinees were to stay in these rooms for a whole 3 days. Inside the storehouse, everyone pitched in to drag the heavily sleeping servants to the corner of the wall, before pulling the servant uniforms over their own official robes. Li Jinglong said quietly, "Let's begin." The Carpiao hid itself behind a water jar and began to divide up the medicine, and the rest of them split up to go their separate ways. Hung Jun lowered his head, walking along the corridor with fast steps. As he passed by a room, he tilted his head to take a look, searching for the mark that Chu Yangxi had made beforehand on the hem of the sleeve, the lapel of the robe, or other similar places, and every time he found one, he would use a throwing knife to make a light mark on the door frame. A Tai did the same, lowering his head, and every time he passed by a door, he pretended to peek in without looking like he was doing so. Hey! When A Tai passed through the hallway, he was discovered by the test proctor. The test proctor waved his hand. "You, come over here for a moment." A Tai went over, and just as the proctor was about to ask what this servant was doing, staring wildly about outside a testing room, a hand reached out from behind, tugging at the hem of his robe. The test proctor. Just as the proctor was about to turn his head back to look, the Carpiao suddenly lifted its hand and opened it, shaking a little Lihun pollen out. "One look brings fortune dash." The proctor sneezed, and A Tai immediately turned around, vanishing like a gust of wind. The Carpiao dove towards a corner, also running away. The test proctor. "Stop! Why have I never seen you before?" Another guard confronted Chu Yangxi. "Meeting again brings joy." The Carpiao once again scattered some pollen and the guard sneezed, his face filled with confusion, as Chu Yangxi and the Carpiao each went their own ways. Hung Jun passed by a room, and when he looked in, he suddenly saw Du Hanqing. Du Hanqing was sitting behind the table. After watching suspiciously for a moment, Hung Jun passed by the room. Without making any sound, Li Jinglong turned the corner to that hallway, his brow furrowed deeply, watching Hung Jun's figure from behind. He didn't expect Hung Jun to turn back around though, and Li Jinglong immediately ducked again behind the corner. Only to see Hung Jun, throwing knife in hand, hesitate for a second, before finally coming to a decision and carving a line into the wood. His eyes were red, and he turned and left resolutely. After a few moments, Mo Rijin hurried over and lowered his head to inspect the mark outside the door, before peeking into the room again and letting out a sigh. He felt that mark with his hand and carved it a little deeper before he too turned and left. Li Jinglong. Just as Li Jinglong was about to leave, A Tai came, and like Mo Rijin, he had taken a special trip over to inspect Du Hanqing's door, and right behind him was Chu Yangxi. Just as Chu Yangxi turned the corner of the hallway, he almost slammed into Li Jinglong, and in an instant he grew extremely nervous. "Yo, Zhenqi." Chu Yangxi smiled. "Seems like I was worrying for nothing," Li Jinglong said flatly. "You all are very protective of Hung Junhui." Chu Yangxi smiled and said, "We were only afraid that our efforts would fall just short, Zhenqi. When important times arise, we're all on your side." And saying this, he patted Li Jinglong's shoulder. All of the signs on the doors had been complete, and everyone gathered outside the storehouse to confirm their counts. 266 rooms, Li Jinglong said. "That's all of them, let's wait for the bell." Hung Jun was quiet, and everyone else didn't speak as well, so the atmosphere turned a little strange. Li Jinglong went over, and with one hand he pressed down on Hung Jun's shoulder and said, "This time, after properly wrapping up the case, let's go out and have some fun. What do you guys say, where do you want to go?" "Really?" Hung Jun asked in surprise, perking up. The corner of Li Jinglong's mouth twitched, and he thought, where is the compassion you hold in your heart now? "Pingkong Li." Chu Yangxi immediately said. "Li Jinglong." "Pingkong Li," A Tai smiled. Hung Jun asked, "Is Pingkong Li all right?" "I haven't actually gone there yet, but if Zhang Shiyu don't like it then." Mo Rijin said, "Then Pingkong Li, if we don't stay the night, and just watch the dancing and listen to the songs, that's all right, right?" Pingkong Li isn't all, well, those kinds of places. Even you want to go? Li Jinglong had no way to comprehend what ran through his subordinates' minds. Mo Rijin said, my first time, I need to save it for the white, whatever, we'll talk about that later, but drinking wine and listening to songs, that's fine." The Carpiao asked, "Can we go to Pingkong Li? I want to go see that painting." "Then let's go to Pingkong Li." Chu Yangxi made the decision. "Good dash," everyone joyfully shouted. The opinions of the many crushed the one, and Li Jinglong placed one hand on his forehead. At that moment, the bell began to ring, dang dang dang, and everyone immediately rose to make their preparations. When the second round of chimes rang out, the proctors carried scrolls in their arms and hurried towards the private rooms. Every time they passed a room, they stuffed the test scroll in from the window, and as soon as it left their hand, they hurried to the next room, and in this fashion, they made it around to all of the rooms. The glaring sun shone down from above, and Hung Jun's palm sweated as someone shouted from outside, "Water deliveries here!" Everyone mixed into the crowd of servants and carried a basket of pitchers out before lowering their heads. The guards searched the baskets and the pitchers, and everyone went on their own to deliver the water. Li Jinglong held the Dinggun powder in his left hand, and with his right he lifted a pitcher. When he got to a door with a mark, he added the powder into the pitcher before taking the water that the guard poured out, and after filling the pitcher, he passed it into the window, and the examinee took it. 5 rows and 5 more, the 10 rows of private rooms had almost 100 in each row, and after this round, everyone was so tired that their foreheads were covered with sweat. When they returned to the storehouse, Li Jinglong saw that the time was about right, and he said, "Disperse." Everyone flipped over the wall again, arriving at the street across from the testing center. They all peered in the direction of the test center, all of them still uneasy. After going to all this trouble, a large part of the day had already passed, and the autumn afternoon was a little chilly. Hung Jun was afraid that they wouldn't drink the water, or that the amount of medicine wasn't enough, and thinking of it, when Li Jinglong had him put even more medicine in, that was a move made with a great amount of foresight. Li Jinglong then patiently waited a little longer before taking a deep breath, as if he was also a little nervous. Not long after, horse-drawn carts resounded on the street, and numerous carts arrived. It was precisely Gao Lishi and the various officials of the Ministry of Rights who were here to oversee the testing. Li Jinglong was waiting for this exact moment, and he immediately said, "Let's move out." Hung Jun said, "Wait, I'm still a little afraid, they wouldn't leave this early, right? Let's wait a little longer." Li Jinglong answered, "I tested your medicine on the water the servants drank, and the dosage is definitely enough." Hung Jun, "I'm just afraid that they won't drink it." Li Jinglong, "In the morning I had Mo Rijin come to the Imperial Academy and add in 4 times the usual amount of salt for all of the breakfasts at the Academy, just to prevent any mishaps." Aside from Mo Rijin, everyone else instantly gaped in amazement. Chu Yangxi immediately said, "Zhenqi, from today on, this one will definitely be following you." A Tai said in disbelief, "What kind of person is this?" Li Jinglong humbly said, "Stop joking around. In a bit you all need to be a little more proper, go." And saying this, Li Jinglong pulled off his outer robe, revealing his body clad in the dark blue official uniform, the sword of wisdom fastened to his waist. He wore the uniform that the Son of Heaven had gifted, and his posture was straight as the body of a brush. Everyone followed suit, revealing their official uniforms, and they followed behind Li Jinglong, heading for the plaza. End chapter.